All right.
Hello, Mary. Mary, try and sort this one out. Let's talk about fish, baby. Let's talk about you and me. Let's talk about all the good things and the bad things that may be. Let's talk about fish. Let's talk about fish, baby. Let's talk about you and me. Let's talk about all the good things and the bad things that can be. Let's talk about fish. Fish. Let's talk about fish. Let's talk about fish. Instrumental break.
Huzzah!
Let's talk about fish, baby. Let's talk about you and me. Let's talk about all the good things and the bad things that may be. Let's talk about fish. Let's talk about fish. 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 Let's talk about you and me. Let's talk about all the good things and the bad things that may be. Let's talk about fish. Let's talk about fish. Fish. I think that one will do.
There we are. Good morning, everybody.
Good morning. Good morning.
Morning, Mary Page. Morning, KassCee Bee. And good morning, everybody who's with us so far.
Good morning, all.
I got a lot of sleep last night. I'm feeling pretty good.
He's what is it? I can't even think of it. Fine as a frog hair.
Why does a frog here?
That's always
Pretty
nice.
fine, pretty
Getting good.
fine. Right. Glory. Oh, we had a great day yesterday, didn't we? That was great fun.
Yes, we did.
Got to meet Fred. I've been wanting to meet Fred, so that was
Yes.
good. I appreciate Alex bringing him up and introducing him. That was fun. Neat guy.
He was very talkative yesterday. He was commenting on my video as well, so it was nice to see him up here after he made those comments.
He's
Yes.
incredible. He really is.
Yeah, I really want to see your pond, Cassie.
Well, you can see it.
Do a video on your pond.
I did. It's in my
Okay.
money work video. There's a clip of it.
Where? One.
I introduced it when I did my video on money wart.
Ah, okay. I'll go back and look.
You can go back and you can see it.
I will do it. I will do it.
It's about like halfway through.
Psychedelic. Oh, what? I don't know what that is.
Just a random comment. She wants to quit her day job and win the lottery.
Yeah.
Got to play to lose.
That's right.
Really?
I've lost a
You do.
lot.
You do. You can't lose unless you play.
Right. We've got redfish, bluefish in the house.
Redfish, bluefish. Oh my goodness. We
Yep.
certainly do.
And Blake.
Jason, hello, hello. Tampa Tom. Jason, come on up and talk about your shop. Let me get a link here.
That would be wonderful.
That would be wonderful. Yes.
And good morning, everybody.
Yeah. Nice to see everybody. Oh, I'm a little hot here. I need to get
My kitty cats were playing during the music. I was looking over at them to see what was going on.
Excuse me. And there's that.
Jason may still be in his 90. I don't know. Although I understand he gets up 4 a.m. That's not being an early bird. That's something else again. That's being a night owl is what that's being. Lori Venker, T-Bones, Paul C., Brian Scott, Blake. Hey, Blake. Nice to see you. T-Bone. Alex is here. Hi, Alex. Hail, hail. Hail, hail. The gang's all here. Father Fish is here. Laurie Venker. Hey, Laurie. Great work you're doing, Laurie. Appreciate you. Tampa Tom. What a crew. What a crew. GRB. Excuse me. I have a second. Yeah, right. We're talking about. What are we talking about? D3V is here. All right.
Same thing. One.
Ding,
I don't
ding.
know. Same thing. Okay. TV3 was talking about his tanks in a pond in a living room.
Oh my. So Jason, what is your official opening? When are we going to be able to get into your shop and buy it out?
Oh, Jason says he
Where
might
is
have to
his
wait
shop?
a few minutes.
A few minutes. You know what?
Yeah, so he doesn't wake up everybody. Love the coffee mugs, Brian.
Where's his shop, Fatherfish?
Say what?
Where is his shop?
Oh, Jason, is he on the West Coast?
Yeah, he's in Seattle.
Okay.
He's out there with Alex. Brian Scott, love the coffee mugs. The coffee mugs are available. You can get one of your very own. Simply go on PayPal. Account is fatherfish at fatherfish.net. And for $25, we will send you your very own Fatherfish mug, and we'll cover shipping. And KassCee Bee has a sticker on her cup because she
It
likes
comes
it.
with it comes with the mug.
Oh, glory. Ugh.
T-Bone said that Lee probably won't be with us today, and Jason said it's probably looking like what did he say? November 1st. November 1st, but he has a little delay on the fishies. He may not be looking to get an order on October 28th. I think is what he said there.
Oh, okay. So Lee's not going to be with us, huh?
T-Bone said he might not be with us, so maybe
So,
we're out house hunting.
we're not. Well, he was trying real hard to get himself busted last night.
If Lee can fly through this without getting busted, then we're safe.
Yeah, really. God knows.
I went to log in this morning and it said he was still alive.
What?
Real.
I think I was
He
like,
just
"Is that
all night.
me?"
I think he left it on and went to bed. Is what he did.
Yeah.
Oh,
So one person was watching.
Real.
they can flip all the fish.
I think he left it on and went to bed. Is what he did.
Yeah. So one person was watching.
Oh, that was me there, guys. Sorry.
Red
Minor
fish,
delay on
blue
the fishies. Let's see.
Redfish Bluefish is telling us where his shop is in Green Bank, Washington.
It's yeah. He's in a very exclusive location on a historically significant farm that has been converted in recent years into a kind of an art center. And he's got a really beautiful physical location in there. And I would love to be able to visit. It looks like it's just going to be utterly magnificent. The thing I'm excited about is that Jason has a unique it's involved uniquely in the hobby. He does more with plants than probably anybody else outside of the big commercial guys in the industry. So his tanks are going to have things in them and be able to present stuff that nobody else is going to have. So it really will be a significant step up in the hobby. And if he can do this in a way that allows him to ship, and plants ship pretty easily, and allows him to do everything that he is able to do in his hobby there in the shop, it's going to be extraordinary. So I'm very excited about it, and I'm seeing ways in which it's going to be able to inspire me to do some things that in my shop that I have not either had the courage to take on or the knowledge even to be able to do. Jason's knowledge in particularly with plants, and then having somebody close to him like Alex, who has just an extraordinary ability to work with tiny little fish, and I know that's an interest of Jason's as well. It's going to be something pretty special. So, just really looking forward to that. Aquarium Zen. What is Aquarium Zen, Cass?
It's one of the stores that's on my bucket list of places to go visit.
Where is it?
They are in Seattle. Really, really nice shop. I just drool when I see videos of people going inside his shop. All his tanks look really nice.
Alex worked there, he says.
Long story, he said.
Jason is calling Alex the plant whisperer. Jason is the plant whisperer. Really, really is. I think I caught him on his very first live stream video. I think it was live stream. I got up there. By the time he came up on his second one, he was going to show us his laboratory. And I got on there with punchy paints. And we had such an uproarious time that we couldn't stop laughing. It was just great fun. And we were really not doing Jason any favors at all. He was being very studious and serious, and we were being absolute fools. But had a great time, did some bonding. And then he was able to come on. He handled it very well. And then was able to continue with that and calm down the class and do some actual teaching. So, extraordinary guy. The mad plant scientist and sorcerer. Yes, indeed, he is. Yes, indeed. I know, punchy pee-pee pads. That's part of what got it going, I think. Just totally lost it.
There we go. Lori posted a link for redfish, bluefish. Thank you, Lori.
Oh, wonderful. Oh, Lori, when you post links, post the website. We've got everything now that is on GetGills on the website. So, and the website is set up and ready to go. We can actually do ordering on the website. So let's see if we can get that cracking.
Oh, that's good.
And then I will start paying attention to my email, so I know when stuff comes in. I've not had an order in GetGills in a month, so we may as well kind of abandon it and go to the website.
Really?
Jeremy's been doing a heroic job of getting it up and operational. He's really done quite a lot with it, and it's a good marketplace site now. So that's J-Dog.
Yeah.
J-Dog is here somewhere, I think.
Yeah, he was here.
Yeah, I talked to him earlier this morning. So just certainly appreciate his fine efforts.
Father Fish, I'm sending you a test email. So you can share this.
Yeah, Laurie posted the GetGills. Post the website, Laurie. J-Dog, what? Come buy a mug from Father Fish. J-Dog.
I took a picture yesterday and wanted to share it with you guys.
Oh, sorry. I was reading it. Sorry, Cass.
What's your picture, Cass?
I just emailed it to you, so if you can, go into your email.
Right. Let me see if I can do that. Sure, Cass.
I just emailed it to you, so if you can, go into your email. I hate hearing myself.
I know, I do too.
I know, I did that.
How do you guys put up with me?
I keep opening strange. Right. Art here in Titusville. Well, I got your name. Oh, here we go. Oh,
Should
my.
be there. All right, so make us small and show that to everybody.
I need that link. There's the correct link now. Great.
J-Dog.
J-Dog. J-Dog. I haven't seen J-Dog in a while.
Mm-hmm. And he says we've got the merch on the link. I've got to see this. I'm looking, so I'm not in the chat for a second.
Mug is there.
The bettas. Oh, it's beautiful.
You guys have a firehouse in your town? I was at Firehouse yesterday for lunch, and I saw that picture, and I was like, I'm going to share that. Some
Oh,
people
that's
might
cool.
appreciate it.
Yeah, that's really cool.
Take us back, doesn't it? That's what, 30 years ago? When that flew? That was in the 80s. I was under Reagan. Long time ago. Nice.
Well, didn't the shuttle program end when Obama was voted into office?
It did, but those yeah, around there. It started under Reagan though, I believe, didn't it? That would
I
have
think
been
so.
1980. Nice. Nice.
We got to go see the Atlantis, the shuttle of Atlantis up close in person.
Jack and Dan are here. Hi, Jack and Dan.
Yep. His video is supposed to come out tomorrow on his beta.
Oh, right.
34
Right.
years, says Alex.
Did y'all catch them on Ohio Fish Rescue wearing their duds? They were all in their exercise outfits.
No.
I loved it. Y'all look great, rocking it.
34 years ago, Alex said.
Yep.
What's up, Marco?
Any fish questions this morning?
Yeah, it's kind of quiet out there, isn't it?
We might have to end early today. We don't get
Really?
questions.
Yeah. Did you
Do
see?
something. I don't know what. We need to do something. Lori.
So
Oh,
Redfish Bluefish is asking where Mary and I are. And I'm on the east coast of Florida, right by Cape Canaveral.
and I'm in Portsmouth, Virginia, near the Hampton Roads area, near about 20 minutes away from Virginia Beach.
Yeah, so that was some local art that that they put up in a firehouse. So if you have a firehouse near you, you might have different looking artwork for your area. Can't remember if Firehouse originated in Florida. I have to look that up. I don't remember the story. Are you guys familiar with Firehouse subs?
Yes.
We had them in Somerset, but we didn't have a big. It was just kind of like in a little strip mall in Kentucky. There was a Firehouse Subs in there. Been a long time. It's been 3 or 4 years ago, but it's still there.
Yeah, they came out when I was like in high school or just after high school.
Yeah, there's one here in Venice.
And all these good mornings. Peplin just came in. Millions and Sons.
Jack and Dan thinks their ropefish might have a worm.
Oh no!
A worm with a worm.
Hey, can you show it to us, Jack and Dan?
Really?
We need some folks to come up and visit with us today.
David Piper wants to know how he can naturally drop his pH. That's a good one.
Mm-hmm.
Add a piece of, add some driftwood. You can put peat moss in, anything that will add tannins. The tannins will lower the lower the pH. pH is a function of carbonates. So water, if you're doing water change, you do water change with RO water. That'll reduce the carbonates, which will begin to reduce the pH. That's a good way to do it. Just reduce carbonate level. Easiest way to do that is with RO water, spring water. um, distilled water, anything like that. Rainwater. Rainwater will work.
Did you see what he said about? It looks like it has some tiny little white worms hanging between the scales, like a fluke maybe.
Oh dear. Oh,
I
that's
remember you
not
discussing this
that.
one time. That's totally different.
Wow. Oh.
He said it doesn't look like anchor worms. Did you see that?
I didn't see that one.
It was right after
Okay.
one you read.
Yeah.
Capture Million and Sons. I want to get back to that.
Okay.
Okay.
That's at 8:20, and T-Bone's got one at 8:22.
GRB is talking about something Blake's just did. That's on natives. That should be interested.
Yeah, that's a good one.
I'm looking for. Where is the comment on? Oh, there it is. Jack and Dan. Some tiny little white worms hanging between the scales. I don't know. Sounds nasty to me.
Yeah. Sure does.
Yeah, you may need to. Alex probably has a better handle on the medication. There is anchor worm. I would treat with an anchor worm medication. You want to do something to kill the parasites.
GRB asked about what he just talked about, that video about Blake. Do we have purple spotted gudgeons here in the USA?
Oh yeah,
I thought we
they're
did.
popular in the hobby. I've got
I
some
saw.
in tanks, I'm sure.
I think it was Zen Ginger or maybe Ginger Grave. Somebody had put up a video of them a while back, but I think they had eaten all their mollies.
Let's see. Well, now we got to get Jason up here. Marco's talking about the allelopathic water plants. Says many people don't know this story, so we'll have to get Jason to explain this to us. The allelopathic water plants. Let's see.
Let's see. Roman said, no questions today, but I want to say that this stream is the only one I watch live and participate in. This stream has a warm, inclusive feel to it with lots of educational content.
Well, thank you, Roman. You've been a significant addition to that whole process, Roman. We appreciate your involvement very much.
There's another one too. I know she's been around, but Holly's been here every time I've ever been here.
Yeah.
Lurking, listening.
Holly's wonderful.
One of the things that's really remarkable about participation is how many professionals and highly skilled hobbyists we have with us on this stream in the morning. I guess it's good for coffee time. I don't know, but we really appreciate the involvement of everyone here, and especially those who make their living in the industry and in the field. Kind of a big deal. So, Marco, why don't you come up and talk about allelopathic water plants? You're the one. Let's do that. Let's get
I've
Marco.
asked him to come up before, but he doesn't seem want to.
Well,
maybe he will today.
A lot of people are shy that way. The water's fine. Come on up, Mark. You'll love it.
And Alex says that him and Jason just discussed that yesterday for 2 hours. So y'all get up here.
Really? Well.
Uh-huh.
Really? I'm looking for it, Mary.
Thank you,
I
Chevy.
don't see it. Fly. Got flies.
See,
Little gnat.
Leslie talking about her
I got
betta.
it.
Yes.
Yeah, that's the one I got.
Yeah, if the female has adequate places to hide, then you can keep a pair of bettas together. In fact, I usually keep a harem of bettas, 2 or 3 females in with a male, in a small tank with a lot of plants, and they do just fine. I have actually had males breed with 2 and one time even 3 females in the same nest. We had over 500 eggs, and I was able to hatch them all and raise most of the babies. It was pretty extraordinary. Alex, all right, you guys.
Yeah.
Talking about fungi for 2 hours on the phone. Talk about Nerd City.
That's his passion, though. He loves that stuff.
Real, I know.
He looks forward to it.
We're looking to do what is the fungal material that you put in a tank to get a lot of fungal growth going. We've got a new. I don't know if Thomas has shown it yet. We converted the black water tank to an atrium with a deep soil base. It's actually not soil. It's actually peat moss, the deep peat moss base that we're adding nutrients to routinely. A lot of potted plants in it currently. We're looking to put some of our veiled chameleons in there once we get the lid for it. I'm waiting for my glass company to come over and put the lid on it so we can do that. But Thomas has been talking about trying to get some culture going in it, not for the purpose so much of getting mushrooms growing, as for the purpose of getting that substrate live. Doobie-doo. Indoor fishing is here. Hello. Dead Fred is here. You know what? We're gonna give Dead Fred a wrench.
Do you want to go back to Millions and Sons question?
Yeah, let's do that.
Does anyone have a better or more affordable solution than pink insulating foam boards to level tanks?
I've used a lot of different things. You can get a very thin styrofoam. It's about 3/8 of an inch. That works. Here's Alex.
Alex.
Hey,
Hi.
Hey, that's not kid friendly, Alex. Come on.
it's not kid friendly, but you told me to come up, so here I am. It's 5 a.m. over here. Cut me some slack.
Crazy. All right.
I was gonna say you can grow mycelium and hyphae of fungi in vermiculum, and I was thinking about doing something similar to that, or even I don't know. You can use coffee grounds as well, but I'd just be curious if you inoculated an area with a fungi that is native to waterlogged regions such as the Pacific Northwest, some of the ones I know that grow on moss and things. If you put that mycelium, not the fruiting body that melts and deteriorates, but that mycelium, if you actually use that as substrate or a layer of substrate, I've kind of been curious to play with that as well. and see what the functions are, because we were just talking about it yesterday, but one of the really fascinating things is, so far it's a very new study, but they've found that fungi, every single plant they've looked at, including aquatic plants, has a fungi, be it a mold or a mushroom that fruits, has some relationship with a specific species in the wild. And right now they've documented a few hundred, like specifically, but so far every single one they've looked into has had one when they started sequencing the genome and taking little biopsy samples of the roots and things like that. And the super fascinating part to me is that a lot of plants, other than legumes, cannot fix nitrogen very well. And so there's some fungi that will take nitrogen out of the soil from far away, maybe 100 yards away, and they can concentrate it and turn NH4, for instance, into NH3 and hand it over to the plants. But fungi do not usually create any sugars naturally. And so what they'll do is they have a ion gate between the cell wall and a cell membrane of the two species.
Stop a minute. We're breaking up.
Oh.
Try again. Did we lose him? I think we lost him.
Am I breaking up, or is it everybody, or what happened?
Okay. No, I think it was just you.
Okay.
The audio, but it's okay now. Go. I had a question. I wanted to ask you a question about. We're losing him.
No, there? I'm here. Yeah.
Okay. Mycelium. Does that exist in anaerobic environment, or is it aerobic?
It can bring oxygen with it, so it's kind of like plant roots.
So it can go into anaerobic. It can go deep. Yes,
very deep. And the other thing is that I was about to say, I don't know where it froze or got cut off. Sorry, but they've found that it can fix nitrogen, be it NH4 or NH3, and it can break it all the way down to just nitrogen, elemental nitrogen or ions. It just depends on the species, but then it can break it down and transfer those things, over the course of, say, 100 yards of ground, and bring that to a tree. But what it does more commonly, it's like for all fir trees now, they literally won't live without the mycorrhizal hyphae, they call it, that lives around the roots. It's a symbiotic relationship, just like we have gut bacteria. And what it does is the mushrooms cannot, or fungi cannot create its own sugar, that species. And so it takes nitrogen from the soil, which Douglas fir trees are not the best at doing, and it gives it that nitrogen. And there's actually an ion gate that fits perfectly like a key between the cell wall and the cell membrane, and they trade 1-for-1 sugar for nitrogen. And it's basically, they've killed it off, and it's such a small mushroom that doesn't have a fruiting body, but they've killed, or not mushroom, but fungi, I should say, but they've killed it off before, and the Doug firs will die. They can't metabolize it on their own. It's actually their mechanism for doing it. And it's native to the roots of all Douglas firs. If you have a potted one or whatever, it's on that root. It's on the surface if you were to culture it.
Is Mycelium aquatic? Are there Myceliums that are aquatic?
That's kind of a hard question to answer, because it's not necessarily, it wouldn't be aquatic in the sense of floating in the water on its own as a structure, but it's in very, very waterlogged ground all the time. That's very common. So it definitely does have a way to do that. and they have found it for sure on aquatic plants. It's on bulbs all the time. In fact, you see the mold spores on, if you have ever bought a little bulb for like a lily or something, you can see several of the mold spores that are inherent to the surface of that plant in particular.
Right. Neat stuff.
Yeah.
There's some good comments on it. I don't know if you saw them, Father Fish, but Jason at 834 talking about many oyster mushroom species are excellent cleaners of toxified soils and environments. They will quite literally eat many carcinogens, toxins, even PCBs, for crying out loud. Marvelous organisms. And Dead Fred's in there too. He's
It's just itchy today.
Yeah.
Dead Fred at 834.
Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
Oh, you're fine. I was just comments that were going along with your discussion.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, there's a great TED Talk online called, I think it's 6 ways or 7 ways that mushrooms will save the world.
Yeah.
And it's by Paul Stamets, who's in Washington. He's probably the foremost mycologist in the world, as far as being well known amongst other disciplines. But it's a very great talk. It's about 25 minutes long, but I mean, he talks about how they've discovered species of fungi now that will break down jet fuel, styrofoam. And I was actually in university when he did his second study with the oyster mushrooms that Jason's talking about. Up in Bellingham, he put diesel and then also various types of motor oil and then fuel for marine, boats and things onto a pile of, he had some kelp, and then he also had a beach with hay bales and mulch, and he put it on those, and he then inoculated it with oyster mushrooms, and within 2 years there was all this life. I mean, there was flowers growing on it and grass growing on it, and birds and insects and things coming to it, whereas the other one was still just a pile of sludge that just was an oil slick basically. And you can check that study out too. It's pretty fascinating. So now in Washington, and it's starting to spread all over the world, it's popular in Europe already too, but in Washington in particular, they actually make their booms, like floating. They look like sandbags, but they're filled with straw and peat moss and various other substrates. But they inoculate it with oyster mushrooms, and they've found a few other species. But literally, it sequesters everything from mercury and lead in that fruiting body, and then you harvest it and throw it away. But they'll put that on the beach so that anything that washes up, it soaks it up, and then the mushrooms will deal with it in a matter of about 48 hours. They can metabolize a pretty fair amount of it. So,
Wow.
Million and Sons, Alex is saying, asking if you have used tyndallization process for sanitizing substrate for mycelium inoculation. He said he found it more effective than pressure cooking.
Yeah, I've played a lot with that, with a lot of those methods. It's been a while, but yeah, I've tried a whole lot of different things. I won't get too far into it. It was a different time in my life, but let's just say I've grown a lot of mushrooms in my college dorm room.
Dead Fred is interested in that direction as well.
Yeah, it's come in handy, because if you want to do tissue cultures of plants, you have to do the same sterilization procedures. It's very similar in using the undifferentiated cells, and mushrooms are almost like the whole. We don't realize it, but when you dig up the earth and there's that white stringy stuff, that is the fungi. That is the mycelium, or if you want to call it the hyphae, the network.
It looks like spider webs in the dirt.
Right. And you'll see it in the dirt. It lives in certain sand dunes. I mean, there's not an environment other than ice, I think, that they haven't really found it on. Ice, I think, ruptures the cell membranes, but there are mushrooms that have the ability to, they have a natural antifreeze in them also, like goldfish do. So, yet again, another organism we're studying to try to understand how to prevent cell damage from the ice. Specifically for cryogenics is what they're looking into that for saving tissue of organisms, and I suppose humans too, you know, if they want to ever try to resuscitate it, if we have that ability in the future. The main problem is ice crystals form and rip apart the cell membrane currently when we try to freeze anything. So, and it can also damage the DNA.
Thomas has chimed in on this. He's the one who brought all this up here in the shop. Talking about cultivating mycelium. Yeah, he wanted to use vermiculite early on in this this new atrium we've set up, or new vivarium, whatever it is. And I kind of vetoed it because I wanted to get something in there right away. But we could go back and inculcate it into it, I guess, if we need to. We want to try to get, he wants to try to get some mycelium going in. We've got peat moss in there, about 6 inches of peat moss that is now wet pretty thoroughly. The question is getting the culture.
Oh, right. Well, what fungi does he want to grow in particular?
I don't think he knows. You want to talk about this, Thomas? He's probably still in his 90s as well.
Because I mean, there's also, like Jason just said, you generally use autoclaves and then rarely UVC lights in the lab for decontamination.
Right.
I mean, like the kind of funny part about the Northwest is we can't. It would be a futile effort for us here to try to set up either a mushroom fungi inoculation or a tissue culture without a clean room. Like Jason has a hood and all the equipment to kind of do propagation tissue cultures and things. He's got great videos on it. I've done videos on it, and I want to say when he brought in some species samples from around the world, and I kind of promoted it through my channel a few years ago. There's some videos around that time too, if people are interested in learning about the process and, you know, node cells, basically undifferentiated cells in plants, and how you go about getting it to tissue cultures to start, and the chemicals involved and all that stuff. But I would be curious.
What would be helpful is if you could relate this to an aquarium. What's the significance of mycelium and mycelium culture in an aquarium environment?
Well, depending on what species it is, I mean, it can do anything from turning, you know, elemental iron into iron oxide. It can do the reverse. I mean, there's different properties for different mushrooms, and mushrooms, when you see them, that's just the fruiting body that's usually around for a couple of days to a couple of weeks. It's the mycelium that has all these incredible properties and is dormant, well, not dormant, but not doing anything that we notice underground and doing all these ion exchanges with plants and things. But I mean, it would be a very effective network to facilitate fertilization of certain chemicals and minerals if we could work out the allelopathy and the symbiosis of which plants work well together with that. But it would be interesting to see, because the other thing it does is it kind of hermetically seals the elements, chemicals, compounds, and sometimes even complex enzymes. It seals it from the environment at large. So it's almost like a root tab that's a spider web, and it can sequester that and only release it when it's given the right signal. And my guess is that the plants of plenty, or the roots of lots of plants, probably have some sort of interaction with that mycelium. Now, you might need to go to a bog and dig along the shoreline and just look for what's growing there or whatnot. And this is very, very new area of science.
So a dirted tank at least provides the environment for such culture to occur.
Yes, and it does. I mean, that's, if you've ever thrown wood in a tank, for instance, frequently you'll see white slime growing all over the place.
Yes.
It's either a slime mold or a bacteria or a fungi. And when we think of water, rot, or mold, those are fungi. I mean, that's the same family as mushrooms. So
I noticed on the wood that I put in there, it was covered in the marrow moss algae.
oh
And
yeah.
then when I added the nerite snails and they started eating it off the wood, the white stuff came back.
Oh
where
yeah.
they just ate it. And I was like, oh no. I don't like the white stuff.
Sometimes you'll find actual like bright purple stuff grows on wood too. And that is a reaction of the oxidation of an alkaloid inside one of the fungi. And in woodworking for thousands of years, northeastern Europeans in Lapland, so like Finland, Norway, Russia, have been using this turquoise color. The mycelium of a certain mushroom turns the wood turquoise color and hardens it. And so they've been carving that, and it looks like it's got turquoise stone embedded in it.
Really?
But it's just the effects of the mycelium on hardwoods that have fallen and been colonized.
I don't think I've seen that. Where was that?
Specifically, the woodworking that involves it is in northeastern Europe, and I guess you'd say northwestern Asia. So Russia, Lapland, Finland, and Norway area, kind of.
Huh. Almost sounds like a petrified wood.
It's kind of similar. I mean, it looks similar to a lot of the mineralized petrified woods for sure. Yeah. And it occurs in the Northwest too. It's just there's an actual cultural significance to it locally there. So you can Google images of, if you look up like turquoise fungi woodworking or something like that, you'd probably find it.
Hey, I have to do that.
Yeah.
Morocco. Fish and Tactics says Morocco.
Morocco does it as well.
Nice. Aquafunk is with us. Hello, Aquafunk.
Alex, I want to pick your brain on HOB stuff.
Oh yeah, on just hang off the back filters.
Yeah, because you had a video about like that brown stuff that grows and smells like earth.
Oh yeah. Geosmin.
Well, since you talked about that video, I've been leaving my filter floss alone and not like cleaning it out or replacing it as much, and my flow has gone way down.
Well, you need to be careful in the sense that it still needs to function as a mechanical filter, and it still needs to pass over the surface area of enough nitrifying bacteria that it's, you know, doing its workload for you. But the way I have mine set up is that last pass, it almost uses it as a slide. And my Pandagaras or my Gara flavatas, as well as Panda loaches, they love all that slimy stuff. They love that falling into the water.
Yeah, they'll climb right up into it too.
They will, yeah. They'll come out of the water, like at the surface, just to kind of pull it off and eat it. So
Well, it's built up. I've changed the way my filter was because I had, before I added the sponges in, I had the cartridge that came with it, the carbon in the first slot, and mine's like horizontal instead of up and down.
okay.
And it wasn't really flowing very good. Like I had my filter floss in the last compartment, and you know, just my media in the middle, the bio, whatever those are, rings. And it wasn't like making it to the filter floss really. Like that was still pretty much staying white. So I moved that out, put that on the top, and put the sponge, took the cartridge out, and put 2 just regular kitchen sponges where those 2 things were, and left the bio media in the middle. And so now it's like there's a whole lot more brown stuff building up, and it's mostly collecting on the filter floss on the top part. But it's like slowed down the flow a bit.
So. Oh yeah, it definitely will. And I mean that depends on your plant species, your fish species, your tank temperature, kind of just what you're doing with your tank. You know, if you have a very warm tank, like a discus tank, I don't really recommend doing it because you tend to get more just, I don't know what you'd call it, but I've just found it to be slime that the fish don't like as much. But there's kind of a sweet spot in the like 68 to 80 degree range where it cultures very palatable algae and fungi that and biofilms for that matter, that a lot of fish really enjoy. And I have a theory that you know, that there's nutrients being sequestered in those, whether they're molds or biofilms, because biofilms can incorporate you know, everything from slime molds to bacteria to, you know, there are all sorts of life forms in a layer together. And I have a feeling that some of the vitamins and some of the interesting chemicals and nutrients that both plants and fish need, that we're missing some pieces to the puzzle that we just don't understand, that are in these biofilms and these layers that naturally occur. And I really think that only taking a culture from the actual ecosystem would be the only way to truly replicate it. But people do that. People bring water samples from the same place as a fish is from separately, and so it doesn't get all contaminated with ammonia. And just that alone is going to have hundreds of thousands of spores of various, you know, fungi in it, as well as bacteria and everything else. So,
yeah, the lab here in Ruskin that works with the fish farmers has been dedicating increasing. Excuse me, I'm trying to sneeze. Has dedicated increasing service to the study of the biology of the substrate. Alex, we just lost him.
I'm here. I'm here.
Oh, still listening.
Okay.
But my phone's lagging out, so I thought if I cut the video, maybe it would keep me alive longer.
Jason had to leave. Thank you for coming up, Jason.
It's funny because we literally were talking about a lot of what people were bringing up in the stream earlier. Jason and I, he called me yesterday, and I was out in the woods hunting for mushrooms, and he was telling me about his store and how his order got delayed for the fish because of, you know, the whole whatever going on in the world. And yeah. And basically, we just got on this tangent, and I don't know, hour and a half later, we were still talking about how mushrooms and tissue cultures and all sorts of things overlapped.
I've
So
noticed with my deep substrates that initially, particularly when I mix all of the various supplements, which is minerals and organics, uh, in with the soils, and then set it up in the tank, cap it with sand, and fill it with water. That for the first month or so, that soil is pretty harsh. And if I push roots down into it, it'll kill the roots. But
yes,
if I put the roots in the sand and let them find their own way into the soil, that does not happen. After about a month, things seem to calm down a bit, and it becomes increasingly stable and increasingly um, just biologically powerful to the point where the plants will just really explode after 2 or 3 months.
sure.
So
And
there's something going on in that substrate, in that anaerobic environment that's creating a balance and creating an environmentally sound kind of, or a sound kind of a healthy environment for root plants or plant roots.
yeah, and there's also a lot of interesting, mushrooms produce chemicals that are not found anywhere else in nature. They create some interesting chemicals. As people know, there's the magic mushrooms that create some pretty novel chemicals, but way more interesting to me beyond that, there's some mushrooms that have several thousand chemicals in them when they're analyzed under gas chronometry mass spectrometers, and they they find all sorts of interesting stuff in there. There's some that even sequester gold. It's bizarre.
Huh.
There's in Washington state alone, there's over 1,800 species, and in the world we really have no idea how many species, and that's mushrooms. That's not even fungi. That's just mushrooms that fruit. So we really don't know at all how many mushrooms there are. It's been an area that has been underfunded but also stifled and stigmatized due to the whole magic mushroom thing in the 60s, giving it kind of a bad name for a lot of the universities and things were drawn to those mushrooms first because they're clearly powerful. They clearly can put you in a very altered state of being. So that was just a very obvious case of them having certain alkaline, or not alkaline, sorry, enzymes and chemicals in them. But plants are the same way, and the allopathy, that's a relatively, we've known about it a long time, but that's a relatively new thing. Like, we've known for a while that when a giraffe eats an acacia tree, it sends bitter tasting tannins to the other side of the tree, so that if anything else eats it, it tastes disgusting. And that has implications, saying that if you wanted to use acacia leaves in your tank, you should probably go rip up some leaves on one side of the tree and then go harvest them from the other side. And they would have far more tannins. So there's things like this that may have, maybe they're not earth shaking outcomes or anything, but they could have some application or some interest in ways that would improve things in the hobby, or at least be fun to play with.
Right.
I've noticed the substrate right now that I can see up against the glass
Mm-hmm.
has like little like streaks in it. that I think at one time were white and now they've turned red.
Yeah, that's either probably diatomaceous algae or a red algae, probably if it's not deep. But if it's deep, it's just an anaerobic, maybe a cyanobacteria or maybe an anaerobic bacteria colony, most likely.
Yeah, that's what I've wondered, if that's like the anaerobic organisms, like, you know, making a home down there.
Definitely, that's exactly what it is. If you put a plant above it and let its roots grow into it, you'll see them disappear because the plant roots actually bring oxygen to the soil around them, or substrate, I should say. But I saw a comment about somebody asked about, or I think it was Millions and Sons, asked about if I'd seen the guitar necks made out of the purple heartwood.
That was interesting, wasn't it?
Yeah, and that's exactly what I'm talking about. Yes, and I actually have a video saying, why is my, like, from 3 years ago, and I didn't know. I said, why is the wood in my aquarium turning bright purple? And it was local wood that I had thrown in the tank that was a hardwood, and it turned like an electric, or between a pastel and an electric purple for a while. And then it kind of settled down into a burgundy brownish purple. But it stained the wood indefinitely after that. And it turns out, after the research, that was a fungi, and that is the oxidation of some compound in it, and that's the trace it leaves behind, basically. That's, if you've ever gone mushroom hunting, you know that if you squeeze a mushroom or you handle it, it does something called bruising, and a lot of them turn different colors, and that's how you help identify them. And that's oftentimes either an oxidation or it's the cell wall breaking and mixing of compounds.
Yeah, I think I saw a video where it had turned blue. Like when they cut it open, it turned blue.
Yeah, totally. That's a very common. The blue is a very common color reaction in
I didn't know it did that.
mushrooms, and
I can't believe we're talking mushrooms.
and all. Oh, is that an artist conch? What is that?
I did that. It's very old. It's like 30 years old. I did that when I was in my 20s.
Is that a mushroom, Mary?
It's what they call a shelf mushroom. I don't know the name.
Yeah, grow on the side of trees, dead trees.
Yeah. And actually, the underside of those is soft when they're alive. And there's I talked about that on my little mushroom walk, actually, the video I did the other day, which is there's still old conchs. They just like a conch or a conch, however you want to pronounce it, like the shell. Those mushrooms we actually find out here in the Pacific Northwest on old growth trees, and you can see where settlers wrote their name on the underside of it, and it's scarred into it, just like if you carved your name on a tree. So there's like initials on these old shelf fungi that are now 60 feet up in the air, and you're like, how did that get up there? And it says 1892 A and Q or whatever.
Yeah, we don't have that here. I've never seen that before.
Mm-hmm.
Shelf mushroom, I think. I can't remember whether I've seen any in Florida.
There's some in Florida.
I sure haven't.
Yeah.
There's some near Ocala. I for sure saw some when I was down there last year.
Yeah, around. It only grows on hardwood, I think.
Yeah, I saw it when I was in the Ocala National Forest, kind of up in the hills and by the springs and stuff. I saw that there were, I don't know what species it was, but it looks very similar to one we have up here called turkey tail. And it basically has concentric rings that have color. But I don't want to derail this into mushroom talk, but I just thought that the whole application into substrate, and also the fact that we, as a hobby, have pretty much completely overlooked fungi as a beneficial trait in our aquariums because we just don't understand it very well at all. There isn't much research on it. And there's such a diversity that without a fruiting body, aka a mushroom, we're at a loss because it all just looks like white stringy stuff or clear phlegmy stuff, you know? And
Part of the problem, Alex, is that there's a mentality that's grown up around fish keeping that says the aquarium somehow must be pristine or the fish are going to get sick and die. Whereas the truth is the precise opposite.
yeah,
A pristine tank is more likely to kill fish than it is to keep them alive. The healthier your plant, the healthier your tank is, the more variety of life is in it. Said in the reverse, the more variety of life you have in your tank, the healthier your fish are going to be, and the healthier the tank in general is. So doing the dirted tank is merely a way to be able to achieve a living environment rather than a sterile, dead environment. A sterile, dead environment, which is what much of the technology that is vomited upon the industry, upon the hobbyist, attempts to do, is precisely the opposite of what needs to be done. So the whole notion of doing a dirted tank really runs counter to much of the popular wisdom that's extant in our hobby today. We need to crash through that, to break that down, to push that back over the water's edge into the deep, to deep six it, and to say, no, what we need is healthy living environments, not dead, sterile environments.
Right.
well, and I think that our society has done that everywhere. I mean, you see humans getting allergies because they don't have any contact with, you know, the things they're allergic to.
Right. I'm
And
extremely allergic to everything, but
Right, and MRSA because we're using too much antibiotics.
right, way too many antibiotics. And
there's no
the
immunity
other thing,
built up.
I just saw New England Endler mentioned. He said spore prints from shrooms can look pretty cool. So an interesting, a little side note is if you go to Instagram and search Alexander J. Williamson, just my full name, just like my email is, you'll find a bunch of my image actually on that account is from my art account. And as far as I know, I'm the first person who has taken spore prints and used them as an airbrush almost. And I would set them over stencils of images and go collect various, some different mushrooms leave different patterns, different colors, and different densities. And that's what I went out and purposefully collected and then created imagery with it on paper. And in theory, you could put that paper into substrate and it would fruit. So,
wow.
So there's images online of it. Like I use the gills of the mushroom as like a crow's feathers on its wing or things like that. And so that art exhibit actually was in Berlin. They took it there and showed it as part of another exhibit on pop art. And then it's also been at the Skirball Museum in LA too. So
that's amazing.
Can I circle back real quick, Alex?
No.
We moved on before I could reply to you. We went back into mushrooms.
Go ahead.
On the HOB, so you mentioned temperature and there being like a sweet spot between like 60 and 80 degrees.
Yeah, I think like 68 probably. It's actually closer to 70 being the,
really?
But I say 68 just because, you know, when you look at species guidelines, 68 seems to be in the book pretty frequently as the lower limit for tropical fish.
Well, my tank is probably around 76.
Okay.
Should I like remove that stuff and replace it with new filter floss, or try to like just squeeze it out like a sponge filter and keep reusing it?
It'll come back. I mean, unless you really thoroughly, I don't know, clean the heck out of it. I mean, it's in your water already, the spores from it. So
Yes.
if you want to clear it out, that's fine. But if you see that you're getting less algae, I mean, it could have an effect on. For all we know, it kills algae because it takes over the nutrients, or it takes over, that foothold in the ecosystem. We really don't know for sure. I just know that my hill stream species like to eat it. That's the reason I keep it. And that it doesn't seem to impact my nitrates in the least. So
Right.
so that's why I keep it. However, if you don't have a reason to keep it, then it's just, I mean, it's up to you what you want to do with it, but it's kind of an experiment. I mean, I don't really have a good answer for if it's that beneficial in any other way than that my fish are happy to eat it,
Okay.
but I don't think it hurts as long as your nitrates aren't going up due to a lack of a filtration or something.
I killed off the cyanobacteria, and then like that like died away, I guess, and like got replaced with this brown stuff that I'm seeing in the filter, and it's like covering my plant leaves on my swords. So I don't know if that's from killing the cyano or like algae. But I
Oh,
noticed it
yeah.
more after I killed the cyano.
Okay. Yeah.
So
Well,
I added that, like those what is it, like I can't think of the word right now. The powder though, that I think it adds like an organism to go eat the cyano.
oh, okay. Yeah. I know what you're talking about.
What about the actual the medication stuff you put in there?
It was
to
the
eat
blue
cyano?
green slime powder that you can.
Yeah. Is it just called no cyano? I don't know. There's
I
one of them
forget.
that's
I'll
like a
have to
real.
look, but it worked like a charm in a matter of like days, and
Yeah.
it hasn't come back.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm very happy now. It's
that
gone.
works. Antibiotics work, but they can hurt your filtration, So there's different things that work for that, definitely. And it's a lot of it's just what works for you is best. If that worked out well for you and kept everything at an equilibrium, then do it. I mean, sometimes something I do in my tank, in my ecosystem up here, I might have completely different spores and genomes of bacteria up here than you do. So and for that matter, microorganisms might be completely different, that the fish are even eating. So that may be contributing to the success or failure of some of the very tiny fry that eat Artemia and Infusoria type stuff. There are many species of Infusoria that's a catch-all term for a bunch of different species that are little critters. And probably in Florida, floating around in the air and in the drinking water, there are cysts and spores or eggs or whatever they may be, of all sorts of different things than there would be here or in Europe or whatever, in the Amazon where they're native to. It's different everywhere. So I always say whatever works. I mean, I know people who raise things in hard water that are soft water species, and it works fine for them, and other people it kills their fish right away. And I think there's just so many variables that we're only learning about now, and I think they could come into play definitely. But it's hard to know when you don't know. You just know that something similar has caused other effects in science. They've documented it, but we don't know.
Has an interesting comment. He said, if you see the cycad plants reproducing in the UK for the first time in 60 million years, makes you wonder what epigenetic changes will occur in wild fish species with changing ecosystems. And that's very valid. We see that. We see that continuously. We see what appear to be new species which are in fact not new species at all. They're merely changes, sometimes minor, sometimes more substantial changes in the physiology of a fish to adapt to changes in its environment.
Hmm.
And that
Yes.
happens in your fish tank. You can see that if you're breeding fish over a period of generations, you will see changes in the physiology and the appearance and the structure of that fish over a period of generations based on its need to adapt to the environment that it's in. So
Oh,
these
most definitely.
Yeah, and he followed up at 9:14 with another comment, Father Fish.
go ahead.
We can get the variety of fish to color out with a little over a century's worth of selection. What will a changing ecosystem produce over the coming centuries or millennia?
Well, in point of fact, we get a variety of color uh, in less than centuries. We get it in a few years, sometimes even less. Um, Darwin documented changes in bird beaks from season to season
Yes.
based on based on the seeds that were available to them. So these changes can occur very, very quickly.
The other thing is that's actually a whole science now called epigenetics, which is just like a human, you reach a certain age and you go through puberty. You had that in your DNA to say, at a certain age, this organism is going to start producing these hormones and it causes X, Y, and Z changes. I mean, you put on different fat in different parts of your body, you put on hair, you put on, all sorts of things change because something was triggered in your DNA at that time in your life. That happens. We see that with salmon, like humpy salmon or Chinook salmon. They get a big hooked beak so that they can fight on the way with other males when they go upstream, and they turn into these like big humped ugly fish compared to what they look like in the ocean. And that's at the end of their lives. But there's plenty of changes that happen in our genome that are either on or off, and they're dormant from past iterations of an organism. So, for instance, we've taken chickens and we've turned on their past ancestry in the reptile world, and we've given them a reptilian tail and teeth on their beak in their embryonic stage by triggering that epigenome, because every organism going back to a single cell organism that we're related to evolutionarily, there are trace genes that get left behind, and some of those are still functional if they are triggered properly. It's just that they're not triggered because they're not needed. And so it's kind of like a library of how far an organism has come. It's when we see mammals going back to the ocean, for instance, like whales and dolphins. They didn't grow gills, but they were able to adapt in ways that they probably turned back on some things, and then they probably mutated in new ways, and whichever one was more preferable to their survival. Man, this light is driving me nuts. I'm outside because my wife gets mad when I talk this early in the morning and wakes her up, so I
Can't
stand
blame her.
outside. Yeah.
It's very nice of you.
Yeah, well,
Yeah,
I talk
Alex.
too much for her, so
As my husband's right here while I'm on the screen.
I don't mind people talking as long as it's like informative and knowledgeable.
well, somebody
We
said
should-
something interesting in the chat, and I lost it because it scrolled up too far. But they mentioned Paul Stamets again, and he's a fascinating guy. If you Google him, he's kind of
Yeah.
become a little bit of a rock star as far as scientists go, kind of like Neil Tyson, DeGraw, but or Bill Nye or whatever. But he had an interesting point, and this doesn't have to do with fish, but since it was in the chat, I just want to mention it quickly, which is he and several other people, including some anthropologists and biologists, believe that fungi were instrumental in culture, society,
Mm-hmm.
actually forming. And I mean, there's in the sense that fermentation caused us to grow grain and things like that. So there's the sense of yeast and those organisms, but also, I mean, fungi and fermentation is another thing. But beyond that, many religions have incorporated the psychedelics into their stuff. But beyond even that, going back even farther, there's a mushroom that's one of those shelf fungi, like the one Mary showed, that are called ember cinder cone mushrooms. And they allowed people to travel with a hot coal they would drill a hole into the mushroom and they would carry it with them, and for like up to 4 or 5 days it was light enough as air but resistant to burning, almost like asbestos properties. And they've seen that in even non-human hominids were using that to control fire and carry it with them. So very early in human history, we have been working with fungi in some pretty profound ways with the unique properties it has. And somebody brought that up, and I don't remember who it was, but I just wanted to echo that sentiment.
Sam Dam had I'm looking for it,
Yeah.
had a question for you having to do with autoimmune systems.
Did you find it, Father Fish? I
You
found
have it?
Yes,
I have
sir.
it if you got it.
Okay.
Yeah, somebody got
Sam Dam said, I want to ask Alex a non-fish question. Is lupus or autoimmune disorders identified as a risk group for COVID? I have AS and just for people on immunosuppressive meds.
Yes.
Is that what you were talking about, Father Fish?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. They know well, and more in speaking of hominid relatives, Neanderthal genes they've identified now as a vulnerability or comorbidity with COVID, and I'm not going to add the year to that because I don't want to get this video flagged, but you know which one of them it is. But the Neanderthal genes, I actually have 4% when I sequenced, which is in the 99th percentile, and that they think that the red hair gene evolved in Spain and then later moved into northwestern Europe with the Vikings, and then moved over to the Isle of Great Britain and Ireland, and only there was it selected for, probably by desire. You know, it was a novel feature, and so maybe men and women who had it, it was a desirable trait that then got passed on. But that is something that they are pretty sure now it was a Neanderthal gene for the red hair, and also for these autoimmune issues. They think rheumatoid arthritis specifically was a Neanderthal issue. They find the bones have signs of severe and debilitating rheumatoid arthritis problems. And so lupus is very similar to rheumatoid arthritis, the type I have anyways. There's 7 kinds of lupus, but there's so many autoimmune diseases that it's hard to predict. During the Spanish flu, we saw young men were hit hardest of all, and that's because they would get pneumonia because they had the strongest immune system, and it would cause fluid and phlegm to build up in their lungs. So people who had a mediocre immune system actually fared better than people who had a really good immune system or a really bad immune system. And, you know, usually it's the other way around. Usually the better your immune system is, the better off you are. But there are organisms that evolve to exploit that weakness in us. You know, if you can't beat the immune system, maybe you can use it against your host organism, you know?
Like fire with fire or trick it.
Yeah. So yes, it is, but I don't know about the other autoimmune diseases. I know that I have some friends who are HIV positive, and they have to be very careful because they have a weakened immune system. I have the exact opposite problem. I've been in a study where they've actually, my immunoglobulin E and G are extremely high, and that's what's very, very low in people with HIV. And so they've actually studied both, because I need a little bit of what they have and they need a little bit of what I have for the system to be balanced. So
Yeah.
they're trying to figure out what it is that causes that.
I want to ask, we've got 62 people currently here and 46 thumbs up. 16
Yeah.
of you who are lurking right now have not hit the thumbs up or the thumbs down button. You can
Right.
do either. But if you will do that, we need to get to 50 in order to be able to move to the next level on the algorithm.
That's
I've been
right.
watching this, and it's been painfully slow. And there it goes. 41, 51. Good. Thank you all
Yeah.
very much. I appreciate it. Goodness sakes. Well, where are we at time wise here? We're
9:25.
about a half an hour left. Uh, and this is now, I want to say something about what's been happening today. And for that matter, what happened yesterday is what happened.
Sorry.
No, listen, don't be, because that's what this channel is really all about, is to sucker in people like Alex
Right.
to get on here and to take over and run with it until he runs out of gas in order to be able to
That doesn't happen.
Oh my goodness.
I know. It's true, isn't it?
Well, it's a good thing for us that that doesn't happen.
He also doesn't breathe. If you'll notice, no gaps. You literally cannot get a word in.
I'm too excited. I'm sorry.
I love it.
That
It
is
joyous, Alex. It
as
is.
a,
It is
well,
a celebration. It's, you know, but what I wanted to say about that is that we do not come on here with an agenda
Right.
other than to see what's going to happen that day and to be welcoming to people who want to come up and express something and to create real opportunities for that.
Yeah.
And we try to encourage that. We try to get people coming on who have something to say. And there are many people right now listening to us, watching us right now, who have volumes to say. Million and Sons, obviously. I mean, there are a number of them. You can just go down the list and look at the comments and realize there are people out there right now who have fabulous stories, fabulous insights, you know, a deep understanding of whatever it is they're doing or what we're talking about or both. And we really want to welcome you to be a part of this. This, you are not in any way interfering. You are not in any way interloping. You are what we are here to do. So we appreciate it. We honor it. We respect it. We desire it. And we will do everything we can to encourage it. So come on along and be part of your morning streams.
Well,
Mary and I are here to just help the flow go along. I hope we're helping.
Oh, you guys contribute a lot more than that.
We can have these discussions, and then when people have, like, we're here if people have fish questions. We're here, and there's always somebody in the chat. We've got, like, you in the chat, Chevy Fish in the chat. You know, like Jack and Dan brought up the whatever it was on their rope fish, and immediately, you know, Chevy started helping, and that way, this is a way we can just think about, like, when I used to get out and go to work every day. There was places I loved to stop in the morning on the way and just hang out, have a cup of coffee, chat, shoot the breeze, whatever. That's what we're doing here. We're coming by and hanging out with Father Fish and talking about all kind of stuff in the world, but knowing that our common denominator of fish, our love, is what got us all together. But we're still people on top of that. We
Right.
still have lives, and we still have kids, and we still have deaths, and we still have.
Yeah, it's not full-time fish.
Yeah,
Well, you get burnt out.
Yeah,
You get burnt out if you just look at one
Yeah.
angle of the thing.
Oh yeah,
Mhm.
and like that's what I'm doing. I'm listening to you guys like on live streams. I used to not, absolutely didn't even get in on live streams. I just turned them on and watched them while I was playing with my fish tanks. You know, like my fish tanks are my way of doing something with myself that I enjoy, that I love, while the world is going on around me. You know, like it's just one of those things. It's my little indoor garden, my little peaceful world. It's my
Yeah.
home, my yard. I don't have anymore. It's that. It's just beautiful. I told Father Fish this morning, that's one of the reasons I don't really keep specialty tanks anymore, because I don't have time or the money right now. I just want some fish. So I went to bettas and a couple
That's
of
why I did the jar.
and easy fish. And I think it turned out pretty good. It looks amazing, you know, just to be some simple fish.
Oh, you did a great job, Mary. That's really
Yeah.
nice.
And
it looks
Very
like a
nice
nice
for us
set.
to look at.
Yeah, it's a nice set piece.
Alex and Lee and Sue in here are just rocking on keeping this thing clean. Lou's over there with the other fish, but
Oh, good. It's making up for what I lack in real life.
you lack nothing.
I make
You
a
don't
mess
lack
where I
anything.
go, though.
You don't lack anything.
I start projects, and then I start learning about something and start another project, and then
Yeah, I think we get bored.
I have mastered nothing, but I have dipped my toes in
Right. I think we're all
everything I've come across.
And that's how
That's
come we
good though, Alex, and that's made my husband very successful. Just learning a little bit about everything, but not too much to get really too deep into it. And that's made him like really successful. So there's nothing wrong with that.
KassCee, what's your husband do? What's his work?
It's hard to explain because of what I just said. He does a little bit of everything, so they don't even know what to call him. But he works at out at the Cape, and his degree was civil engineering, and they just don't hire civil engineers for whatever reason, and because of that, he's got a lot of tools that they need that civil engineers do. And because they don't hire civil, they don't have like a job code for civil engineers.
Right.
So yeah, he's a director now, and he oversees a lot of stuff, but he never said no. Like if they needed something done, a lot of people would be like, oh, it's not my area. I don't know how to do that. I just do this. And he would take it on no matter what it was. You know, it could have been software related, testing, anything they needed done, even though he is mostly building stuff. And he got into that industry because of fluids. So
like fluid dynamics and physics, or
filling up like the oxygen, liquid oxygen and
stuff.
Oh,
okay. Yeah.
The highly volatile fluids.
Yeah. Sure.
Where he was like, I could die at any moment. But
yeah. Liquid oxygen's dangerous, yeah.
Yeah, and he would have to put on those suits.
Hydrogen.
Yeah.
But he just did stuff people didn't really want to do. Yeah. He's always done that.
Well, I am somebody who has an addictive personality by nature, and
if you drink coffee, you got it. I'm sorry.
Well, I don't drink coffee anymore either.
Dr. Pepper.
We all like something, don't we?
Dr. Pepper's my vice.
Right.
Yeah, sugar's mine too.
Anything.
I'm a closet sugar.
But I have to say, one of the only inexhaustible highs that I've found, and I've tried a lot, is knowledge and helping other people. Both of those things, you get a actual dopamine rush. They've shown it in the literature. In an MRI with contrast dye, you can see that it's very similar to cocaine, actually. And you get a little release of it. both when you're being empathetic and you're using your what they call mirror neurons. And mirror neurons are what separate humans, and maybe separate humans from all animals, but at least from most animals. And it is the notion that we can watch someone put their hand on a burner and see their expression of pain, and we feel that. If you are a functioning human being and not repressing things in a psychologically, I don't want to say damaged, but dysfunctional way, some people are closed off to those things. And I think sometimes modern culture and culture in general can be a block to some of these things, but that has allowed us to pass on technology so that we don't have to relearn all of humanity's mistakes every time we're born. We can build off of one another on a daily basis, and that's because of our mirror neurons. It's when someone loses an arm in combat, they can literally show them and they have pains, they have phantom limb pains. In combat, they can put their arm that's missing, they can put it on a table with a mirror that they can see their other arm. So it looks like they have two arms. And when they think about it, their pain goes away, even though the arm's completely gone. There's really fascinating.
But they still have the. Oh, I didn't mean to interrupt y'all, but New England Endler had a question a while back, and I was going.
I was searching for it.
Yeah. When crossbreeding live bears.
Oh, I saw that. That was such a can of worms.
Yeah, I didn't know if you wanted to go in, but I was going to tell you about it. I was trying, Endler, I promise you. We were on such a good little
well,
there.
Can I wrap this up real quick, and then I will touch on that. Is that okay?
Oh yeah.
Okay, so basically, I was just saying that the mirror neuron thing is what makes humans able to not just learn, but feel and empathize. And empathy is the key word there, is to experience and feel. We can feel what our fish feel, some of us. Some people are more in tune with it than others.
Yeah, that's right.
But I mean, it's just like we talked about yesterday. If y'all in the chat were here, we talked about that special connection you have with certain animals, certain people, whatever it may be. That is, if you want to look at it in the scientific, biologic sense, we can look at it in a spiritual sense, religious sense also. But there is a physical and structural reason for it that we're uncovering now too. And if you want to look more into that, it's called mirror neurons. And oxytocin is one of the chemicals in our body that causes that, which mothers actually produce when they're nursing their babies, and also when they're giving birth. They create that. But when you feel love to someone, you actually produce oxytocin in low amounts as well, just being around those people. And the other day, during a stream, I was showing my arms because I have serotonin and dopamine as tattoos on either arm, as kind of the conduits for human experience and sensory input. And so, yes, but
that is amazing, Alex.
I wanted to thank Father Fish and you gals also, obviously, for creating an environment like this, because I've been talking recently, a lot of people are burnt out on the lockdown, they're burnt out on politics, and Fish is a retreat, but also you don't want to get burnt out on Fish either. Right. And a lot of us have common inquisitive minds. And so on my channel, I've been going off on tangents lately too. And I guess I brought it here and I've tried to bring Fred up. But I mean, I don't necessarily want to be doing this every morning. I want other people to talk so I can learn, but I just hopped up because you guys were talking. But
we love it, Alex.
And so so that's why I was like, try to bring Fred up yesterday. I didn't mean to derail anything. I just thought that he had an angle that maybe we hadn't heard yet, and wanted to break the ice of if in the future he has something to add in the morning.
He's incredible.
But now moving on to the question real quick, and then I feel like I'll hop off here so
I
that
didn't
Father
mean to
Fish.
interrupt you with that.
Oh yeah, sure. What's that?
I said I didn't mean to interrupt you in the middle of your beautiful, wonderful talk. Thank you so much. I could listen to you for hours, for real.
Well,
Do genetic dominance here. That'll be interesting.
Yeah.
yes. So, yeah, exactly. The last thing I'll say about all the wishy-washy, heartfelt stuff is that I actually have been talking with a lot of community members, and I don't want to call anybody out, but there has been discussion about doing some chats that are literally just fish tube community, but for PTSD, for chronic pain,
Yep.
for depression, anxiety, mental health, like whatever it may be. There's a few large groups, but the common thread is trauma,
Yeah.
essentially, emotional or physical. And there's been some discussion about maybe doing, I might do it, maybe someone else will. But I wanted to throw that idea out there again to the viewers, see if people are interested, because so many of you that I've talked to one-on-one, whether it's, you know, you've lost a loved one and you got into fish keeping, or your loved one was into fish keeping and then you lost them and then you took care of their fish and then you got into it, or you're recovering from addiction, or you're diagnosed with something that was supposed to be terminal and, you know, you found peace in fish keeping and then you overcame it. Whatever it may be, there's just endless stories in this hobby, more so than almost any hobby I've ever been involved with. And I have lots of hobbies, but it's very, very true that like this community, a lot of us have had a lot of trauma, and a lot of us find a lot of solace. And it's also, you know, it's an introverted hobby by default in some ways. And so I think a lot of us want to find a way to express the extroverted end of it. And so that's why I appreciate this technology, this era. The Fish Club is like, and I don't mean offense to anybody with Asperger's or autism. I'm probably on the spectrum somewhere slightly, but it's like an engineer meeting when I go to our local fish club, and nobody's touching and hugging. It's a very dry and nerdy thing, which is beautiful too. But I do like that we somehow have broken through that barrier, at least on this channel, and I feel like on mine lately too. But I highly appreciate that, Father Fish. So thank you. Now
have to be a big part of what we're all about.
Yes.
And my experience is the same as yours. There's so many people I've gotten to know here who themselves have been through major trauma. I certainly have myself. I think in many ways all of us have. To the point where if someone is not broken, I don't necessarily trust them because they
the same way.
Like you said yesterday, you can't measure what you can't miss, or miss what you can't measure. There's got to be something.
I wanted to pick up on something just for a second. Empathy and sympathy. We're talking about empathy. Alex was talking about the ability to sense what other people are feeling and experiencing. An empathic response is not a sympathetic response. That is to say, if you sit there and you cry about a fish dying, that has everything to do with you and nothing to do with the fish. The fish is not crying. You are crying. It is your emotions that are being dealt with, expressed, and not anything to do with that fish and what that fish is or has experienced. I guess the best example for me is when my cat Tom died just recently. Tom was my best friend for about 15 years. I saw him every day. I was with him every day. When he died, it was time for him to die. He had nothing left to live for. He could not walk, could not eat, could not move around. And so allowing him to die was was a merciful thing, and something I know on some level he was thankful for, so that he did not need to struggle to merely survive. When he died, there was a sense of relief in me, but more, I experienced no sorrow. I experienced some loss, but no sorrow. I retained the joy of his presence. I retained the experience of friendship, the bonding that we had. That hasn't gone away. That's still very much there. Tom is gone, but it was his time. And that's fine, and that's okay. Being able to accept death is the same thing as being able to accept life. If you cannot accept death, you cannot accept life, because they're one and the same. There is no life without death. There is also, to go back to yesterday, there is no life without life. Life feeds on life. Life does not grow out of the stones. Life grows out of living things. Life feeds life. Life nurtures life. When one thing dies, it becomes living. It becomes living matter in something else. Life thrives on itself. It does not thrive on that which is not life. So all of us are bound together in that way. And all of us are, that's, I think that's a big part of what we experience in our fish tanks, is the sense of those living critters, those creatures living in an environment that we have control over, but more to the point, have immediate access to, and can cherish and can delve into, sink ourselves into, and experience the presence of them. So
and we can wrap our mind around it. I mean, it's hard to comprehend the global life and death cycle, but when you have it all there in your aquarium, it's a way to existentially deal with the stress of death that I think all humans carry. I believe in that philosophy from Nietzsche and Freud, even though they have some other crazy ideas. But I think we all do have an existential fear of death, and we have to come to terms with it in some way or another, or we don't, and we're stressed, you know, one or the other.
Right.
But
and
I
our
think
pets come to terms with it sooner than we do.
and yeah, and I think it literally, the hobby helps us wrap our minds around it. You can't, it's hard to imagine infinity. Anybody who says, "Oh, I get that," they don't. So
we're not.
It's
But-
like knowing about a rock bottom.
yeah,
A rock bottom goes real deep. Real deep.
It does, all the way down. All the way down.
To hopelessness.
It's the life force. It's the life force in us that continues. And that life force does not dissipate, doesn't go away, doesn't disappear. It remains long after this body is gone. It's a part of the entire life system of life. So
That's what
give us a minute, Alex, about genetic dominance.
Yes. So the question was, does the male or the female guppy determine the dominant traits more so? And that is an existential question yet again. We have incredible information in the last 10 years about Posiliata family fish. And that is that essentially, I mean, you have recessive and dominant traits. So either they pass on or they don't. And you have phenotypes, which is how an animal looks on the outside, and then you have genotypes. And so the genotype is the code that tells them how to look on the outside, but it doesn't necessarily need to be expressed, just so we're all on the same page. So when the genotype says something, it can be dormant and recessive, and it may not show until several generations later. Well, some of these traits are only on the X or Y chromosome of things. Like male pattern balding is from the female side of your family on the male chromosome of your mother. So, or of her male DNA. So basically, your mother's father and brothers will determine whether you have male pattern balding in humans. Well, the same thing is true of many color traits, fin traits, things like that in various fish. Now, every one is different, and some have nothing to do with the X or Y chromosome. So there's that notion of what you're asking, and in that case, you could say, well, this list of things is on the X chromosome, and this one's on the Y chromosome, and what those are offhand, I don't know. But there's also selection and the notion that we know in endlers and guppies both that the males either use all of their metabolic energy to go through essentially puberty or maturity younger, and they have brighter color, and they're bigger, and they're stronger, but they die at a year old. And they're able to mate very early. But then there's another group of males in every large population of these fish that will still look like a baby, or actually a female, similar to a female. If you have guppies, you know that a undeveloped male is just doesn't have the color, and other than the gonopodium, it looks like a female. Well, so basically, there's another group of males that will live 2 to 3 years instead of that 1 year, and they will eventually develop that color. And it depends on the female, and it depends on the environment, actually. So if there is a lack of a certain resource, for instance, if there's not enough potassium in the environment, or there's not enough omega fatty acids, then your endlers and guppies are going to go for the male with the most red in their coloration, because it expresses itself. So does iodine expresses itself in pinks and reds somewhat. And so the females will go for that almost every time in studies. It's like 90% of the time. They'll pick in the wild, they have a deficiency of omega-3 fatty acids in their diet just by default. And so the males that have the most orange, when they do biopsies on their dead body, they find that they had the highest levels. Now, the fascinating part about live bearers, and specifically endlers and guppies, is that the female, she stores, and I have some videos that go into more depth on this if you are interested in the really nerdy part of it. But it's called female's choice on selection, sexual selection. But she can mate with a male, and if you've had guppies, you know that you put a female with the males, and oftentimes she will produce babies for a year after you've put her in her own tank. She can have up to 6 rounds of babies after being with the male for 1 day. So what happens is she has chambers in her oviducts. In oviducts are different than ovaries. Fish, they have a storage place. And the female Posiliatas actually have the ability to add proteins to the sperm packets that the males have given them. So after they've mated, they have a marker. So they know this male I mated with first, then I mated with that male. And they can actually choose based on the environmental changes. So say that the researchers have all of a sudden said, we need males that are smaller because the ones that are bright colored are getting eaten. Well, they find that then the females start selecting from the sperm that they had from the smaller, less colorful males. And I mean, I made that up, but I'm just saying in changes similar to that. They've been able to show that, and it's actually out of the university up at Vancouver, BC. UBC is the university, and then in Trinidad and Tobago, on the islands is where they've been doing the studies, trying to replicate wild conditions, as well as in labs in Canada. And basically what they do is the females will add a little ball and chain onto the sperm for every problem they see with the males. And then when it's time for them to have their for them to ovulate and they're ready to have babies, they basically all the sperm that are trying to get to the egg, the ones with the most ball and chains inevitably don't make it there as quickly as the ones which she has not marked as having a deficiency. And so in that regard, I would say that the female has by far the most say in dominance. However, it is all dependent on environmental input, what causes that. So that's what I have to say about that. I love you all. I'm going to get off of here. And thank you for having me. Talk amongst yourselves. I'll be in the chat.
You have to wait. You have to wait 1 second. You've got a question.
Oh boy.
Patrick Colson. It's not a bad question. It should be hopefully easy. But Patrick wants to know, Alex, how do you manage to have ancestors with probenzas in the same tank? Mine are fighting even though there are
they're fighting over caves. Well, that's easy. Ancestors generally like the lower caves. Give them a ledge, break up their line of sight, turn the caves at different angles, and give them enough caves.
Right, more caves.
More caves, yeah. And you know,
great
job.
Cribs.
I got it in there, Patrick.
There we go. All right.
Alex, I liked how you started out one of your videos with, if you're just here for the quick, answer to your question, I'll answer that right away. And then if you want to stick around for the nerdy stuff.
Yeah.
I liked how you put that on one of your videos.
Well, a lot of people are like, get to the point, or what are you talking about? That's not what the title says. And I'm like, well, I did talk about it, but we're going to also talk about other things. And if you're impatient enough that you don't like this channel, then you should probably leave now, because this is just how it's going to go. So,
well, and we've got Discord now. We've got the comments after the stream, and Father Fish, believe me, he does his best, to get everything he can answered.
Yes.
So if it doesn't get answered this moment, just come back.
And I'm the same way. If people have questions and they're on my channel, I try to. So,
Good luck with your root canal.
Oh, yeah, that's right. You just reminded him.
Yeah, I chipped my very front tooth. Yeah. All right. Have a great day. And I sincerely mean I love you guys. I mean that in a universal sense for all humans watching, and then in a special sense to those of you who I know. All right. Take care.
Thanks, Alex.
Thanks, Alex.
Joe says this is the only stream he makes time for. Thank you, Joe. Joe's awesome. Everybody here is awesome. Like, I get up every morning and like I'm dreading the day, and then I get on here and get around y'all, and it just makes it all go away.
That's nice, Mary.
Yep. Oh, what's Alex's channel? Let's see if we can get his link posted. I think Lori did earlier, but she may. Yeah. Sometimes Lori has to leave. Like, I think she's got kids maybe or something. Let's see.
Well,
Patrick's saying 1 hour. I'm not sure. What do you mean 1 hour? It's 2 hours.
I know. Yeah, we're out of time.
Yep. We are. I've got a couple questions saved that hopefully we can kick off tomorrow's stream with, Father Fish.
That'll be great. Okay. Thank you, KassCee Bee. Thank you, Mary Page.
All right.
Let's play a little tune here, shall we? Let's see. And then I'm going to do, at the end of Lee's song, I'm going to play Aquatic Conquest's new video on the competition. So those of you who want more information about that, it will follow the song this morning. So here we go. Coming up. Thank you, Lee. Thank you, everyone. Thank you for being here. Great day. Enjoyed it. Hope you did too.
Hello, Mary.
Here we go. We're out of here.
So sort this one out. Let's talk about fish, baby. Let's talk about you and me. Let's talk about all the good things and the bad things that may be. Let's talk about fish. Let's talk about fish, baby. Let's talk about you and me. Let's talk about all the good things and the bad things that can be. Let's talk about fish. Fish. Let's talk about fish. Let's talk about fish. Instrumental break. Let's talk about fish, baby. Let's talk about you and me. Let's talk about all the good things and the bad things that may be. Let's talk about fish. Let's talk about fish. 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 Let's talk about you and me. Let's talk about all the good things and the bad things that may be. Let's talk about fish. Let's
Bye,
talk
all.
about fish.
Hi, everybody.
Fish.
Bye, bye, bye.
Tomorrow.
I think that one will do.
That'll do real well.
I'll
Here we
play that. We'll
go.
see what.
Do you want us to hang out, Father Fish, or just?
Sure. Yeah, let's talk a little bit. Yeah. This will take about 2 minutes. 2.5 minutes. Anybody know what that fish is? It's my favorite.
Very tranquilizing to watch.
It's an Arapima.
Yeah, I was going to say Arapima.
Yeah,
Arapima, but it's a pima.
they get 8 feet long.
Yes. That's what, is that what Brutus is at the Ohio Fish Rescue?
They have some, yes.
Yeah.
Thank you all. Take care. Bless you.